So, fuck yes, welcome to After the Hype. I'm your host, as always, Bryan Dressel. With me, as always, is Jonathan Hardesty.
What?
Chewie Darsow.
Hi.
And Emily Blake.
I got a voice for radio.
Emily was out screaming at Hollywood Horror Nights last night. I'm assuming that you weren't actually attending. You were screaming at it the whole time.
He drove by and he was like, ah!
So our special guest today is Tamara Brooks. Hi.
Hello.
Tamara, do you have anything you'd like to plug really quick?
You can catch me with Sarah the Rebel on the Women Wrestling Friends. It's Women Wrestling F. It's me and her and our lady friends and sometimes dude friends talking about wrestling.
That's very cool.
Yeah, that's my current plug.
Is it like any and all wrestling, like
Yes.
WWE, or just like anything you can find?
We stick mostly to WWE just because it's like the most accessible. But like, yeah, we just did a episode about the Mae Young Classic this past week because we did one predictions, and so now we did a follow-up now that it's over. So it was lots of ladies dropping elbows and doing cool stuff. So it was I very much recommend the Mae Young Classic. It's pretty dope. There's this one lady named Jazzy Gabbert who's just like this freaking just muscle bound. It's like Brigitte Nielsen if she was a wrestler but a little shorter. So you take off and you smush her down a little bit so she's just like chunkier. Yeah, she's dope. So that's my quick plug. And then, if you want to go to my Twitter, it's at Misfits Tamara.
Cool.
Jazz hands.
Jazz hands play so well on an audio podcast.
You can feel it.
You
Yeah.
can feel the jazz hands coming out of your car stereo.
Yeah, when it's-
Jazz hands.
The vibration.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Matt Murdock on his way to work on the commute, he's just like, oh, I feel it.
Yeah.
You know, he's hitting cars left and right.
But he can feel the jazz hands. All right, we're going to do a quick Where Have You Been Doing? I'll go first. I watched the movie Pet. Pet is a movie that came out, I think, earlier this year or maybe last year. It stars Dominic Monaghan.
Yeah, the summer, I think.
Yeah.
Or early summer.
I never
Something
even
like
heard
that.
of it.
Yeah, I heard about it while listening to the Nerdist podcast where Dominic Monaghan was on, and they talked about it. And they said, you're going to watch it, you're going to think it's one thing, and you're going to want to turn it off. Stick with it. It gets better. And not like gets better like it becomes a better movie, but like it feels like you're watching torture porn. Like you were convinced you're watching torture porn, and then it takes a left turn, and it is not torture porn at all. And like the name of the movie is Pet, and the tagline is always Pet, a love story. And when you actually get into the movie, and you do have to sit through some really gross shit to get there, but once it takes its turn, it's like, oh, this is the movie you're making. Yeah. I'm suddenly not as offended as I was, and they do a pretty good job with it, and it's
So
definitely...
you have to be offended for a really long time
Yeah.
before you
Even
realize
when he
that
was
you shouldn't be
telling
offended.
me-
Yeah. I
Wouldn't
told
that seem
Chewie
like
the
a
whole
good
thing. I'm not going to
idea?
spoil it
Yeah.
for the podcast here. But yeah, no, I totally agree. Like it takes a buy-in. And if I didn't have Chris Hardwick and Dominic Monaghan tell me you need to get past that point of uncomfortableness, I would have turned it off.
That sounds like every amateur writer when they're giving you the
Oh.
screenplay. Like, you're like,
Yeah.
well, this is a problem. No, you got to
just-
keep
just-
reading.
yeah.
It pays off. It pays off.
Stick with all this misogynist stuff.
But
It's
this
going
is-
to get really good at the end.
Page 100. I swear.
I'm pretty sure this is a first-time filmmaker, so it feels very first time. Like, and there's a lot of dialogue in there that's very just like they have these like, fake forced nicknames and just a lot of stuff that just doesn't work. And like I feel like I saw it at Columbia College all the time. But yeah, it's one of those movies where if you have, I mean, it's real short. I think it's like an hour 25, maybe an hour 30. If you have the time and you like Dominic Monaghan, like I'm a huge fan of Lost, so this was like, oh, he's in it, and Lord of the Rings is one of my favorite trilogies ever. So like, it's like, okay, I'll give it a shot. It is definitely worth a watch. I don't think anybody really need to buy it on Blu-ray or watch it a second time, but it's worth the ride if you have the time. There's probably better things to watch out there, but I still thought it was a cool movie, and I can see why he was so proud of it.
I saw him once playing pool with the bourgeois pig. He is taller than you would think.
They even brought it up in the podcast how short he is, so that's interesting.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He's taller than I expected. I mean, I guess I thought he was the size of a hobbit.
Oh, well,
look
yeah,
a
he's
little-
taller than a hobbit.
Love it.
Dominic Monaghan, taller than a hobbit.
Yeah, there was really good effects with
Also,
that.
I'm 5'4", so everyone's taller than I think.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm 5'1", so you're still taller than me.
Oh.
Everyone's taller than you.
Not Vicky.
I love that you got
Our
that name.
one friend.
You got that locked and loaded. Everyone's not Vicky. Short Vicky.
It's my one.
Anyhow, John.
So I started a subscription, a discounted subscription for GameFly just to try out some video games that I knew I wasn't going to get to for a very long time or buy. So the first one I was interested in at least trying out was called Neo. It's the It's kind of like
Dark Souls clone.
Dark Souls clone, and I only got through like the intro before they brought in like the what makes it different than Dark Souls. So I only got the part that was just copy paste Dark Souls, and like I breezed through it and I got kind of bored. But then they change a whole bunch of things. Like here's some interesting things you can do mechanic wise. You have stances. You have a high, low, medium stance, and you have to be strategic. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'll keep playing Zelda. But
You and
I
are
don't know.
such different gamers.
Yeah.
Because you say all that, I'm like, oh, that sounds awesome. Give me that. And then you talk about Zelda, I'm like, oh, that sounds awful. I never want to play that.
It's true.
Like I said, I'm going to give it a chance because I personally think if you play something like that for less than 2 hours, not enough. But
For
just
Neo?
for Neo. But
Yeah,
that
definitely.
intro is so bad. That intro is just so bad.
So my delightful discovery this last week, Queen Kong. I love this movie.
I kind of forgot we watched it even.
Oh my god. It was total like I saw the poster when we were just going through what's on Amazon Prime right now. And I saw it like Queen Kong, like a gender bending King Kong. I thought we were just gonna watch 10 minutes of it. I thought it was gonna be just pure trash.
Does it exist in the same universe as King Kong?
No.
Okay.
No.
No, it's its own thing. It is pure trash, but in like the best way.
I
It's
found
like
out
my
the
favorite new type of trash.
the lead guy apparently was a softcore porn star.
Oh.
Nice.
Of
Yeah.
course he does.
Oh.
Yep.
So not even hardcore, just like soft.
Oh
like
yeah.
a Cinemax.
The
He looks-
character's name is, I will give it this much. The character name that he plays is fucking flawless.
It
It's
is.
Ray Faye. That's amazing. Like amazing.
He looks kind of like Mick Jagger, which you totally understand why he was popular at the time. He had the same like mystique about him. I don't want to give away all the amazingness of this film.
No, you definitely shouldn't. There's one thing you should never give away, but I'm not going to say it because I'd
But-
be giving it away.
But yeah, I thought we were only gonna watch 10 minutes of it because sometimes I like to do that. Just watch the like 10 minutes of a terrible movie and be like, all right, I got the flavor. I don't need the meal. But this was a meal I loved.
All right. I don't know how to follow that up. But I watched Freakish, which is on Hulu. It's not a very I don't think it's a well-known show, but it's a cute little show. Cute. I know a bunch of people in the writers' room, so that's why I was watching it. And that's the cool thing about Crew is as I was watching the credits, and like my friend Stephanie's name rolled by, and I was like, oh, I know the crafty person. So like it's about these kids. They're all in a high school detention. They're supposed to be cleaning up the school for one day. Chad Coleman's in it, and as the like coach, I think he's like dealing with detention. Anyway, and all their parents all work at like this chemical plant in the valley below them, and then the chemical plant blows up, and some chemical and just wipes out the town, and some chemicals get into the air, and it turns everybody into kind of like zombies. Zombies is the closest thing. They're just basically like they do eat people, and they are like mindless, but they're easier to kill than zombies. You don't have to stab them in the skull. They've still got human bodies. They've just been like possessed or whatever. And so they call them freaks. And all these kids are now trapped in the school because they can't go out, or they're waiting for rescue. And then all this like drama happens because it's teenagers and so it's like a CW show, but like edgier, not so like because they're all very pretty, obviously.
So ABC Family.
There's murder.
Yeah, ABC Family.
I didn't know ABC Family was darker than CW.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, to a degree.
I mean, they had to change their
Family
name.
in the name of their network.
No, they had to change their name to Freeform.
They're called
Oh, yeah.
Freeform now. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
that's
yeah.
what they are.
Yeah,
I
it's
thought Freeform was its own thing.
yeah. No, it's ABC Family. So like, it's not like it's darker per se, but it's like it's more of the, you know how like. I don't know how to describe this. So the Pretty Little Liars. Let's take Pretty Little Liars, for example. There's a whole thing where there's one of these girls that they don't know leaving them strange notes and trying to murder everybody. One of the girls who's like supposed to be 16 is sleeping with her teacher. Like there's just like it's a little
all right.
yeah, it's a little beefier in certain ways.
Well, this is probably
but, yeah.
more of like gory violence.
yeah.
But yeah, it
Yeah.
sounds like the same direction.
Yeah.
That's interesting. It's 10 episodes. It's yeah, it was surprising because like, well, I don't want to give it away because it happens in the season finale, but there was a choice that they made that was not a choice anyone on CW would ever have made, and it was like, whoa, I can't believe they did that, because that is totally like, you would think that's one of the beautiful things about the era in which we live in. It shows have more freedom to do crazy shit because there's so much competition that now you don't like. I don't know. I can't articulate it well, but like I was really happy to see some of the choices they made were very surprising and pretty cool. I'm still on the fence about how I'd rate the show, because there were some times where I was like, it's okay. But for the most part, I think they did some bold choices with it to take a teenage show about kids trapped in a high school. They sort of mixed a CW with zombie, and it was pretty cool. There were romances and
What's the name of it again?
Freakish.
Freakish.
I've seen the ad before.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it overall.
Yeah.
And it's they're only half-hour episodes. It's 10 half hours.
Oh,
so you
nice.
can like breeze through it.
Yeah, I thought they were hour long. It just
Yeah,
popped up on my mouth.
they're 30 minutes and that's 10 episodes, so you can breeze through season 1 pretty quick.
Good times.
Last but not least.
So I saw the finale of Midnight Texas on Monday. There was
I
like
saw
a
you
live
tweeting
watch.
about-
right?
about it, yeah.
So there's like a live tweet view thing that some Parisa Fitz-Henley, who plays Fiji on the show, had kind of put this thing together. So I got to watch it with like some of the cast and stuff, and that was really cool. But I kind of love the show in a lot of ways because it reminds me of sort of 90s syndicated action kind of like adventure stuff.
Sure.
But completely different, like in certain ways. So Midnight Texas is about this town in Texas called Midnight, in which kind of supernatural people live there. And it's kind of like a haven for them, that there's some normal people in town, and sort of the various weird things that happen when this psychic named Manfred is on the run, and his ghost grandma advises for him to stay there because it'll be safe for him. It was not that safe for him. So
was wrong.
so there's like a prophecy thing and like demons, but then there's like a vampire who does like energy and blood leeching, and like a kick-ass lady assassin, and like a witch, and like there's some like racial commentary in there too, and like I just and the thing that I was impressed about, it's 10 episodes, so it's real easy to breeze through. It is based on novels by Charlene Harris, who did True Blood, but I think this was handled much better than True Blood. So the thing that I liked most about it was that from episode to episode, I was never like, well, what about this plot point? Like, there was no like real dangling plot points. Like, everything was moving at a good enough pace that I was like, okay, you're answering stuff. There's some more questions. All right, we're going. I liked everybody in it. Good actors, good stuff. Like, Manfred would get possessed on occasion, and he would act that very well. And there's a talking cat.
Oh, I love talking
Oh.
cats.
Talking cats are great.
Like
Brian
Sabrina
also
the-
loves talking cats.
I like him in Sabrina the Teenage Witch. That's
Do you like
about
him
it.
in Saga? You like Lion Cat?
Lion Cat is dope.
Lion Cat is dope.
Yeah. I've only read the first trade of Saga.
There's like 6 more available.
I know. Well, I own them all.
We
It's-
own
Okay,
them
I'm-
too.
oh,
I'm
you're
working-
just slowly.
I'm just working my
okay.
way through it.
You're
Yeah.
savoring them. That's
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
appreciate that. Yes.
All right, we need to get started on
Okay,
today's
yes.
episode. Today's episode is the number 1 DC Extended Universe movie, the number 1, number 3 DC overall movie. Let's see what else. It's a number 1 of a lot of other things.
Number 1 female director movie.
Number 1
Yeah.
female director.
Number 4.
Number 1 superhero origin
Yeah.
story.
Oh, number 1 now. Okay. Victory.
It's number 1 for a lot of things. It's Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
She
Is
is
number 1.
She's a wonder.
She is number
We're
1.
number 1.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, the first DC Extended Universe film.
Well, I think you DC might be agreeing with you right now. If you're looking at everything they're doing, it's like, well, maybe we should back this horse.
Yeah.
Sorry, Batman. We'll
Yeah,
see.
you
what-
watch the trailer for Justice League, you laugh. There's
Yeah.
fun in that trailer. It's still very dark shot,
Sure.
but Aquaman's funny.
Aquaman.
Aquaman is a new Aquaman.
We-
Not really Aquaman.
I am not going to touch out the 10-foot pole today because I have a lot to say about that. But it's okay. Before we do anything, I think we should
Okay.
just get the breakdown of the way, right? Right?
Okay.
Breakdown.
Break it down.
Are you excited for this?
Sure.
Okay, so Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman.
In 30 seconds. Here we go.
Okay, so Diana, Princess of Themyscira, leaves her island with the rescued spy Steve Trevor to go out into the world and to stop World War I because she is convinced that it is Ares who is fueling this whole war to end all wars. So she leaves her island full of kick-ass, like super awesome women who are the dopest thing on the face of the planet. And so they go out and they try to stop Ares and they try to save people, and she helps people along the way, and there's a PTSD and she helps them, and it's cool.
All right, that works.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Yeah. I got nothing else. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's
Sword.
I didn't even bring up the Native American god, so
Yeah.
which I did not know was a thing.
Ah,
Totally missed that
I was
whole
telling
thing.
him that last night.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Behold.
You can sit back down.
So when we were talking about who to bring on for this episode, Emily shouted your name out immediately, and she said you knew more about Wonder Woman than anybody else in the world.
Well,
okay.
The world.
Let's
Whoa,
manage
whoa, whoa.
expectations. Here.
anyone else I know.
Yes.
In Emily's world.
My world. Let's manage expectations here. She's my favorite. She's my favorite. I often say that the biggest influences on me in my life are my family, Jim Henson, and Wonder Woman.
Oh,
Some good
Henson.
calls. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's kind of my favorite. And it hurts my feelings when people don't understand why she's great or write her poorly. And yeah.
So as somebody who feels that strongly about Wonder Woman, how do you think of the movie?
Well, I was really, really scared going into it. I'm not going to lie. Like, I was like, I already had little pieces of my soul get stabbed by Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. But her parts in Batman v Superman gave me a little bit, like, I was like, okay. So I felt like it is an A experience of a B film. Like not like it's a B film, but like letter grade.
Sure.
Because the first two acts are super great. The third act has some issues.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I already knew going in that they were going to make her the daughter of Zeus, which I think is bullshit, to be just perfectly frank. I think it's like the worst thing ever, and it doesn't understand the character and undermines her in a lot of ways. And like, so I'm not a big fan of that, but this is one of the best ways they could have handled a thing that I hate. If that makes sense.
So I mean, I'm ignorant here on that. So So what is the real portrayal of
The
her?
real origin is that she, Hippolyta is wants to have a kid. She prays to the gods, and the gods say, "Go to the shore and take this clay and sculpt a child," and then they bring her to life.
Oh, okay.
In the Perez run in the 80s, he revamped it a little bit so that all the female gods and Hermes then gave her gifts. So like, Athena gave her kind of wisdom, and she was granted the ability to communicate with animals, and like various other things. So every god gave her, all the female gods gave her like an enhanced kind of thing.
Oh, cool.
So then and also, by the way, being made out of clay is Greek creation myth. I don't know if
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
Sure.
yeah, just for maybe the people who don't know, like Eddie Berganza, that it is Greek creation myth. So there is a reason that William Moulton Martin, or Martin Moulton, I always forget to flip his names.
Molten Marston.
Thank you. There's a reason. There's a method to all of his madness. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like he just pulled stuff out of his ass. Like, this is actually like Greek creation myth. So then to say, oh well, you know what? That doesn't really make any sense. So let's make her a demigod instead, and make her like this kid. So you just turn her into like a Hercules knockoff to a degree. So you kind of are taking some of the originality, and also like sort of the context of this kind of woman only, origin, or and it's not like it's excluded because Hermes is included. So it's not like, you know what I mean. So
Right.
it kind of takes away from the gravity.
It kind
of
of.
that.
Yeah, it seems like it's more like them, whereas with this, it's like, well, Zeus is pretty much all of this. It
Yeah.
kind of goes back, tries to make it all singular god.
Yes.
To build up that, I do not read her comics much.
Mm-hmm.
I was very much Marvel growing up. I've been trying to read more of her comics lately, and I get a lot of my info from Bryan right now.
Mm-hmm.
Although I just stopped picking hers up because the
I'm
writers
incredibly
suck.
upset they're giving her a brother
Oh,
right now.
yeah.
I'm just like,
that?
what?
Yeah,
is
that's
that
real.
trash?
It's
Oh no.
awful in a lot of ways. Like, it
Like
seems.
they keep making her less special. And
Why is Greg Rucka ever leave? Like,
I know.
Yeah.
Please, like,
Well,
it's
he just left again, and now it's.
Now
that's
it's-
what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
as long as Greg Rucka's on, I know it's a good book, and as soon as he's not
he's
on,
gone.
anymore,
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where like Jeff Johns and company created like the Wonder Woman brother thing, and then the book got taken over by Greg Rucka, who went, "I'm gonna ignore all that fucking
Yeah.
bullshit." And then
Right.
as soon as he leaves, they're like, "All right, who's Wonder Woman's brother?" And that's what
Yeah.
they're trying to do now, and it's just ugh.
why did? Just
Well,
so dumb.
Well, it's just so interesting that you bring that up, because it's like, it's those parts where they've shifted from that origin that you mentioned is where this movie is the weakest and falls apart.
Yep.
And it's so interesting to see that it's such a clear line.
Yeah.
Where, like, having no history of the backstory of Wonder Woman, I'm like, man, this part just doesn't seem like Wonder Woman.
See, I disagree. I don't feel like that. I don't think the origin's where the movie falls apart at all. I think the movie falls apart when they start screaming video game dialogue and throwing lightning at each other.
But like they
I
have
don't
the
really
whole
think
Zeus
this
part
movie
of
falls
it.
apart at any
I
point.
agree. I didn't think
I
it was
think
a part
it's
at all.
less good.
no,
but
see,
I wouldn't go so far to say I
Definitely does not
appreciate
fall
the
apart.
thought of falls apart. though.
yeah, but for me, it's just like it's so. The reason why I say it falls apart, and like I love this movie so far. It's
Yeah.
my favorite
Oh,
comic movie
yeah.
of the year. Like it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's weird that we're starting on a negative.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so great.
Well, that's.
super
I mean,
great.
usually when something's horrible, I try to start in a positive. When something's great, I try to start in a negative. Then we'll
Yeah,
go to where we
right,
actually want to end up. But so this one, it's. I don't like. I feel like it almost went full Dragon Ball Z there for a little while, and like that's where I'm like, it didn't feel like Wonder Woman fighting.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
it
there was
just
a
didn't
Super
feel.
Saiyan moment.
Yeah, it didn't feel right. Like it was the right movie, but like why are they floating and just glowering at each other? And it
But
didn't
that-
feel like her.
And I think it does tie back into sort of the demigod
Yeah.
aspect of it. And I think that the third act is where we kind of get the most compromise on what they wanted to do with the movie, because I don't know if you've read this, but like it's, Patty Jenkins had to fight for that no man land sequence. Like,
Yeah.
they did
Yes, I
not
heard about
understand
that.
what they were trying. She was trying to do with it. They were going to try and take it out. They're like, well, why didn't she just do this, or why can't she do this? She's like, no, this is how this is supposed to work. So she had to like really fight for that, and like she storyboarded it all out. She had to do like a whole thing. So I feel like the third act is where we get the compromises
Right.
that
Okay.
That could
bought
be.
us.
Yeah, that makes
so that's
sense.
the only thing that I can think of. And there's a certain thing of Wonder Woman wanting redemption for everyone and wanting to save them with love that is very much indicative of her character, that could have saved that third act for me, even if it was like kind of video game power up moments and things
Yeah.
like that, because there's that whole part where she has the truck that she's gonna crush,
Oh, it's a tank.
the tank, sorry, that she's gonna crush.
'cause it's more
She's-
meta.
she was throwing trucks around too, but the
true.
tank that she was gonna that she was contemplating throwing at Dr. Psycho and
Yeah.
I mean
Poison.
Dr. Poison. Sorry, I was thinking about Dr. Psycho yesterday.
Because that's when
Yeah, because I was
every
thinking
now
of
and
next
then you
movies.
gotta think about Dr. Psycho.
Yeah, like I was thinking about next movies and various things they could do, and
Sure.
I was like, oh man, he's so gross. They'd be able to do such a good movie with him. But like, so she's gonna, she's like has it, and she's gonna crush Dr. Poison with it. But there is a moment there that's missing, which is some sort of extension of hands. There's some sort of, a speech, something. Instead of her
like
just
what the
running
doctor
away.
would do, which is always
Yes.
to say last chance.
Yeah, and not even
Yeah.
last chance. Just like put the thing down and like have a hand and help her up, or like something.
Yeah, she
like
just kind of
she's-
lets her run away.
which is and there's no exchange of words, no sort of like redeem yourself, sister moment. Like nothing. There was nothing. Like she just kind of looked at her, like, you know what I mean. So that to me was weird, and the fact that like Dr. Poison is basically the worst villain in the film to a degree, because
Yeah.
she's the one. Even, granted, she's been floated ideas, but she's the one who's coming up with all
Yeah.
the ways to murder.
Really
everybody.
like female bad guys though.
Yeah, but they never interact.
The entire last fight sequence with a movie that's like it's shot very well, it's edited, everything's done very, very well. But that entire last like 15, 20 minutes feels very choppy. Like it feels like there was a lot there, and they just kept cutting it for time and cutting it for time. I could be wrong, but that's just kind of what it felt like to me.
I understand everything you're saying about Wonder Woman, how important that is. But honestly, if you'd thrown a monologue in there, we would have lost a lot of people in this movie.
Sure.
People
Yeah.
hate that because because they were ramping up to the climax, ramping up to the Super Saiyan moment, and it would have been a crash
Right.
in
Yeah.
that scene. And
Well, yeah.
I understand pacing wise why they didn't do it.
And maybe that moment was not about her saving people with love. That moment was more about her realizing her full potential.
it was
And,
also about her.
Yeah.
That was the moment where she was losing herself.
Right.
She was losing herself through anger.
Yeah.
And then she's staring down at this woman who is laid bare and looking at her and then thinking about Steve
Yeah.
brings her back to herself. So symbolism wise is her throwing away the tank and going and confronting Ares.
And then it's just so peppered with "Gar, I'm going to kill and murder you."
Yeah.
as
Sure.
an evil Harry. Like it just gets
is
so
Ares
goofy.
a pirate?
Yes.
Apparently,
The problem-
I don't remember that
With the
part.
mustache.
the problem
that
that I
bonus
had
scene.
with that sequence
Yeah.
was when she came back to herself and then suddenly she developed force-powered disintegration powers. I didn't
The
like
power
that.
of love.
Which, I don't like that when she was walking towards him and he's throwing things at her and things are
only
just
Huey Lewis knew.
disintegrating.
I
Like,
would-
when did this power come about?
It's
Yeah.
in my head now.
Yeah.
But like that was one of those things where it's like, I mean, you're gonna know better than I will, but like Wonder Woman's kind of like Superman, where every now and then, like, yeah, she also has this power. So I don't remember that one.
I've never heard of that one.
No, it's a movie interpretation of her coming into her god powers as far as I
Sure,
can tell.
yeah.
I don't know what happened in the New 52, which is where her
Bad things happen.
I know. So when she
New
does the
52
Zeus
was a rough
thing,
time for Wonder Woman.
so
Very
like
weird.
yeah, it's so that actually number 9 of that New 52 arc. I remember that specifically because that's the thing that made me stop reading comics for 3 years. So yeah,
bad.
it was just it was very disillusioning. I think it was one of those things where instead of me trying to figure out what I would change in that whole thing, it's figuring out the small things that could have fixed it versus changing wholesale things because it's not a thing that I'd be able to do.
Yeah.
I would not be able and be like, hey, guess what? She's not a demigod anymore. That's stupid. And the whole like disintegration thing, it's like I guess it's supposed to be an extension of the gauntlets and how that she can repel things, I guess, but then like the whole lightning thing because it's Zeus, and I don't know why Ares can throw lightning all of a sudden. I was like, what is he doing?
yeah.
It was weird to me when that was happening because Brian told me that in this universe he's supposed to be Zeus's son. And I'm like, aren't they supposed to be brothers? Like, when did that happen?
Yeah, I didn't. Well, they say it in the beginning, like it's in that whole like weird motion comic sort
I
of
guess I
thing. They
just
say son.
Got it.
But like to take away like one of the most established, that is weird that they took away one of the most established mythological things that a lot of us learn in school,
Yeah.
that a lot of people know about, and just be like, fuck it.
Yeah.
For not really any reason. What's the difference
What's
between
the
him
difference
being
between
a
being a
brother
brother or a son?
I couldn't tell you that.
Unless
because
that's
it was-
Jeff Johns.
Well,
That could be his, because I know he had input on this one. If his input was trying to make sure Wonder Woman has a brother, because that's what he just wrote into Rebirth.
well, no, because that was stuff that they were saying. Oh, you know what? Now I don't remember because I tried to block the New 52 comics.
I never read 52, so
Don't.
I'm learning about all
Do
this
not.
stuff.
There is
Absolutely
some
not.
great shit in New 52.
That
is- Yeah.
Some
Not in Wonder
great-
Woman.
Not in Wonder Woman. No. I'm just saying, in general, New 52, there was some great stuff. Let's move back into Wonder Woman. Let's go more positive side. Let's
Yes.
talk about the mascara.
Okay, can I talk
Blissful
about like
sigh.
costumes started there? Like the costumes for this movie were phenomenal, but like when Hippolyta came out with that bustier that had the like bird cut out in the middle of it, I lost my quietly in the theater. Lost my shit. I was just like, it's amazing, and I immediately started thinking about how you would make that.
Yep.
And it like in my brain, I just in the span of like 10 seconds, I made it, and then decided it was too hard, and it was just like, oh my god, and just decided to marvel at its beauty. I mean, just the costumes and all the costumes in this movie were great. That blue dress was great, but the just the corsetry and bustier work in that island was so good.
Just being able to highlight a woman without trying to just cinch her waist or anything.
Yeah.
The stupid shit they used to do with all of the armor for women and
they
really letting women
accentuated the
move.
strength.
Yeah. I
That was-
do wish there were more like bodybuilder type women in there. That was my only problem, is that there was a lot of super slender girls.
Well, a lot of the women were professional athletes.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
like,
they
some
all
of them
look
were
like they
CrossFit. Yeah.
None of them looked like weak models to me. Like they
There
all
were
looked like
boxers. There were CrossFits. There
Yeah.
were like like decathletes.
Everyone had-
equestrians.
Yeah.
everyone had the shoulders like they could throw a punch. Like everyone looked
Yeah.
like they could throw a punch.
Well, there's one woman I was reading, and I don't remember who she played. The name is escaping right now, but she's talking about how like she does like competitive CrossFit. So yeah, so she was talking about how she actually lost some muscle mass during the thing because even though she was training, they weren't training to the degree that she usually trains. Like she doesn't, because it was like more movement than it was strength, I guess. But I thought that was really interesting where it's like, oh, so they got women who were so hardcore in their normal lives that during the movie stuff, they were like, oh, this is nothing.
One of the special features was the trainer talking about the experience, and I thought this was the coolest part. He was saying like, he trained the guys for the 300 as well, and he was like, it's so different. He said because training men to do that movie, there was a lot of be the best competition. Like I gotta max out and be like, it was a lot of internalized like self stuff. But he said with the women, it was a lot of cheering each other on and like, you can do it. Yeah, let's like, and it felt more like a team and less like an individual pursuit. And I just thought that was.
You mean the guys in 300 were assholes? There's no way.
I didn't say assholes. He just meant they were all about like maxing out their own strength, whereas the
and
women
it
were
still
all
wasn't good
supporting
enough. They
each
still
other.
had to airbrush a lot of those abs.
Yeah.
Well, that's the whole other thing. But yeah, like, and I felt like just seeing everybody, like those scenes where they're just kind of training, or even they're just like riding horses down the street or just walking around. I just like felt like super like amped and excited and like inspired. Like
It
I
pulls
didn't
you
even
in. As a woman, you're just like, this, I want to be here.
Did you-
like, I
did
want
you
to be
guys-
with you guys.
Did you guys cry? Like as soon as little baby Diana shows up and sees all those
Yeah.
women,
Just starts
I
punching.
immediately started crying.
Yeah.
Because I kept thinking about all the little girls now who will see this movie and who will cosplay this character and who will have a love for Wonder Woman for a different reason than the rest of us. Like who have this, and I just immediately in the theater was like, oh, I already love it.
And
We want to show that, like, the 15-minute opening, pretty much, until she becomes Gal Gadot. Because our niece is 5, and she loves Wonder Woman, and we're totally pro giving her crap. Like, every time she has a birthday or Christmas, we're sending her Wonder Woman stuff.
Present situation, she gets something Wonder Woman.
As
Because we want to make our nieces geeky as much as we can.
start them early.
And my sister-in-law, Brian's sister, is nervous about showing her this film because she's 5. There are parts of this movie that might
little
not be
intense.
great.
Yeah.
So we want to like maybe cut down just a beautiful sequence where she gets to see the young version because she looks like Hayden's. She does.
She does. Oh, yeah.
Brown hair, brown eyes, like they look like each other. It's amazing.
Well, shout out to DC Superhero Girls, which is great for kids who want to see not just Wonder Woman, but a lot of other female characters.
I was
being
wondering how
cast.
that
She
was.
does not
Yeah.
like. She does not like Batgirl.
Whoa.
So that's
I
a
didn't
problem
know
because Batgirl's
that.
a big part of that.
Well, she
Why
could,
found
does
out
she
through
not
Fruit
like
Snacks.
she
Batgirl?
could like Batgirl based on this thing.
She
Based on
could.
DC Superhero.
I mean, right now she doesn't like her on the Fruit Snack cover. So when those Fruit Snack show up, she does not want Batgirl.
well, she has no context to that. She's just kind of like a scary bat lady at that
Yeah.
point. So perhaps with this,
And she's a
so-
redhead, Kaden.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's something going on about
She's just
how she-
automatically anti-ginger. She's like, nah, get those weird gingers away from me.
It's an interesting thing, that very first scene and Themyscira and all the training and all that, because it's the one that you point to when people are like, well, what's so special? Like, when you're trying to convince other dudes watching this that, like, this is why this is so special for women to watch, why, like, you get people saying, like, I cried during this scene, it was so amazing, and guys are like, well, it's just like any normal superhero movie, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, the problem is,
Yeah.
it's like,
Wow.
We
So
just
many people
said-
just got jerked off.
No, guys jerking themselves.
Every woman
off.
at the table just did a
guys,
jerk off motion.
it was the most weird
Two
thing I
hands.
ever watched happen.
I would, in the response to those guys, I'd be like, all right, you remember how you told everyone how relatable Boyhood was and how it was just you growing up and Boyhood was the greatest movie in the world.
I should have called it Boy
How
Herd.
you felt while watching that, girls feel while watching this.
Yeah.
Well, and that's
This movie was way more awesome.
it was
I know, but
it was
yes.
Boyhood was such a boy movie.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting thing to kind of come, like, to find out about this, or to kind of deal with this. It's like, what's so special about this? What's so special about seeing this when us guys have, like, 20 off the top of our head examples of this type of thing that we can see that's so badass, so awesome. Oh, I feel inspired and charged by this. And it's like, this is the movie this year.
Yeah, this
like-
is the one that we get, and that's the exact reason.
And then to feel that, watching that same scene again this time around, I was just so like, oh, this is so cool. Like,
Did
this
you
is
watch
special.
it with Amelia? Not Amelia.
Who's Amelia?
Karina. Sorry.
No, she was in bed.
Oh.
I watch all my movies late at night because that's the time I have.
Have you
But
shown
someday,
any of this
yeah,
to her?
someday you'll be able to show
Oh
it
yeah.
to her.
Probably sooner than later.
Yeah.
But you know, the thing that you were saying that I latched on in the beginning is like trying to describe this to other guys. First off, like I
You
won't.
had representation your entire
Yeah, no,
lives.
but I won't, because what's the point? Like,
Right.
there's like, if the guy looks at this movie, like, there's somebody who I won't name on this thing because he's been on here before, who's just like, no, it's stupid. I'm like, all right, if you're just gonna be that dismissive, I have no reason to even try to convince you. Like, all right, it's just not for you. You're just gonna lump it in with all the other DC movies and just say it's garbage. That's all they want to do. So just
Yeah, there's so many people. This is one of the things that I hate is people who love Marvel so much they cannot enjoy DC. They
And-
won't let themselves.
And the thing is like, I'm always been a DC guy over Marvel, just in general. But like, fuck the war. Who cares, DC versus
Yeah.
Marvel? This is the first legit female super movie, like fuck Superwoman or girl or whatever. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm offended a little bit.
I hate that movie so
No,
much.
listen. It is a terrible film that I love with all my heart.
Well, we can agree on it's a terrible film.
But I feel
Oh,
like
this is like the Battleship discussion all over
yeah, I
again.
know. But I think the thing that gets lost in that film is it has the flying ballet. Basically, when she first gets to Earth, and then she learns to fly. That like 3-minute sequence where she's around the lake is one of the most beautiful.
I
things.
Okay,
haven't
yeah,
watched-
okay, that's a great,
I haven't
very
watched
great
the
sequence.
Supergirl
I'll give you that.
movie since I was little.
Oh, it's so bad.
I
It's the
just-
greatest thing.
It's so bad.
love
I remember a typewriter sequence, and that's like it.
But either
know.
way, so like the argument is that so we've had movies since fucking forever with all these dudes, and like now we have Wonder Woman, which Wonder Woman should have been made a long fucking time ago. It's weird it took
They
this
had
long.
a TV show. Linda Carter was good.
Oh, she was
well,
great.
yes,
No,
yes.
I love the show, but I'm just saying, like, it's
She was
like,
wearing a
30,
diaper
40
the whole
years.
time. It
but
was-
the argument is
Yeah.
there's no point in trying to sway the angry dudes over.
Yeah.
It's just not gonna happen.
Or even, like,
it's
the-
a waste of time.
Or even
mean-
the indifferent dudes. Like, there's like the sense of like, what's so special about it? It's like, how is it not obvious from this? Like, just the way that you're watching this, and it's not like, ooh, that's hot. It's more like, this is badass. This is exciting. This is like, pick up a sword. I want to like stab bad guys now.
Yeah.
Like,
Do you got like that? Tony Kim's clothing company, Hero Within.
Hero Within.
Yeah, he came out with a denim jacket that had Wonder Woman logo on the back.
I've almost bought it a few times,
Yeah,
but I
it's-
don't look
it's-
good in
it's-
denim jackets.
It's such a subtle, really nice, classy jacket for men. And when he released it, he took so much shit from guys saying it's gay. Like, why can you wear a jacket with a girl on it? It's like women wear clothing with boys on
I
it
don't
all
understand.
the time.
Why is it so hard for so many men in this world to be able to relate to a woman? I've related to so many men.
Yeah.
yeah.
When I watch movies, I see myself in these male characters. Again, because, well, this is what
That's
I
it.
had
Yeah.
growing up. Why is that such an alien concept to the male population at large?
Well, and that takes us to the No Man's Land scene where it was like, I mean, I'm a dude, and Wonder Woman's a woman. It's like when she went up there and did what no one else could do, I got teary-eyed the second time around.
Why can't you get elated at that?
I was so excited. Like that
I'm
scene.
not telling you. I'm telling
no,
you
no.
the people
Starts-
who might be listening that don't get it.
It
It's
starts
something-
from way back. I was when I was teaching. We had there was the city of LA has this LA Read. Fuck, I forget what it's called, but it's this whole thing where everybody reads the same book in this one particular grade. And we did Joy Luck Club, and I was in charge of running the program, which I did very poorly. And we were having a meeting to discuss our lesson plans and how we were going to coordinate this read, the big read. That's what it's called. And one of the male teachers said, I don't understand. I don't think boys are going to like reading a book about all girls. I don't understand why we have to read it. And one of the other, not me, one of the other teachers almost came across the goddamn table and punched him in the face. She was like, are you kidding me? Do you know how many books about boys that the girls read every year?
Awful.
Almost all of them.
Painful,
Yeah.
terrible books
Yeah.
about boys. I'm
how
so angry
inspiring it's a boy. How the
about
boy
some of the
is
books I
the
had to
one.
read.
Yeah,
like,
but like not to mention this is also a book about the immigrant experience and about parents and children. It doesn't just have to be like there's this idea that if there's a woman in it somehow it's no longer relatable. There's no way I can
It's-
understand this story.
I mean, one of my favorite books growing up was Matilda. Like that was like
Matilda's a
my
great book.
favorite book, and I related to her immediately.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe
It's a
maybe my
learned-
parents were cool.
There's just such,
It's a learned kind of segregation of processing.
somehow
It's-
you're less of a man if you can see yourself in a woman.
It's
Oh,
it's not
it's-
just that it's a lack of empathy to a degree, and it's that early segregation when you're like there's some report that goes around that it takes until about a kid is 10 to start doing the weird gender baskets. So it's like a thing that kids have to learn over 10 years before
Right.
it becomes a thing because they are just real neutral. So it's this kind of it's the boys aisle and the girl aisle toys. It's like it's this thing where it is either overtly or subconsciously said that this thing is not for you. So you don't pay attention to that.
And for us growing up, like it was really at a big cross section of the pop culture that everyone's copying now, like the Ninja Turtles, the Power Rangers, like all these other
Power
like,
Rangers for girls and boys.
yeah.
That
No,
was
but
always very
like
clear.
that area, that period of time with all that stuff, so many little things are just in all those shows that in those 10 years we're growing up and seeing them, the commercials, like we got a lot of information just dumped into our brain that in the 10 years we disseminated. So it's like there's a lot of stuff that's just subconscious.
Yeah, you have to. It's a lot of stuff to unpack, and there's this thing I call it, and then there's the girl. It's also referred to as like the Smurfette principle.
Yeah,
where
I
it's-
wrote an article about it on our
Oh
website.
yeah. So yeah.
I didn't call it the Smurfette principle. I forgot it had a name.
Well,
I knew people had talked
yeah.
about it before. But...
So I was actually gonna be like, Emily wrote a thing. And so basically, like, it's particularly in the 80s when things were very toy focused. Like, hey kids, most of your favorite cartoons got started as a toy line. Ben 10. So it's a thing where you have a show and they realize that there is a small percentage, quote unquote, of girls who will end up watching the show. So they throw a girl in there, you know? And so it's like, and it's so like very obvious that she's just a girl and she's there most of the time.
Oh, the female Ninja Turtle that they brought in.
Yeah. Venus.
That was
Venus
just
de Milo.
dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
good
mo-
times.
even when I was little, I'm like, turtles don't have boobs.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
had boobs?
She had
She had
boobs.
boobs.
Why did she have boobs?
Because
No.
you can't tell if it's a girl if it doesn't have boobs.
That's so stupid.
Yeah, it's the worst. So like you have this thing where you just like throw a chick in there for any various reasons. G.I. Joe had 3 good guy characters because they had like 80 G.I. Joe dudes. So it's okay for you to have 3 chicks because there's like 80 other dudes there's so many dudes in G.I. Joe that you barely got the same cast 2 episodes in a row that were dudes, but Lady J was there all the time.
How does the population not die out?
Yeah, I don't understand.
Really,
Like the Smurfs, man.
Yeah, like
really
the Smurfs.
quick tidbit, just because I find it hilarious. At work, one of my coworkers was telling me about his guy friend who got drunk on eBay recently and bought $2,000 worth of G.I. Joe paraphernalia.
$2,000.
That's a lot.
His
That is a
wife
lot.
is mad. But
Guess
yeah,
what our new spare
Yeah.
room is, honey?
Yeah. So, long story short, all this stuff and these kind of hard coded things that were happening there is, I think, now that we get this kind of generation of grown up nerds who have not had to quote unquote abandon the things they love as kids, they're carrying a lot of that with them into the now, even though it's a pretty antiquated kind of way of looking at things. So you have to they have to be willing to unlearn it. You know what I mean? Like the new Ghostbusters is not replacing the old Ghostbusters.
No.
That still exists. So just let this thing happen. Like, why can't you just let it be? I don't like kick your door in and be like, that shitty movie is shitty. Don't watch it because it's boys.
they recently,
I don't, like,
Yeah.
They did the.
So do you remember when this episode was about Wonder Woman?
yeah, sorry.
man.
Yeah.
Well, it's all related though. It's all related.
Talk about Wonder Woman without talking about
I'm
gender
just,
dynamics.
no, I get it, but we've talked for an hour.
we
We're
talk
pretty
about
much at the end of
naked-
this
can
thing.
we
We've
talk about
barely
naked
talked
Steve
about the
Trevor?
movie.
Naked Steve Trevor.
Naked Steve Trevor, guys.
Hey, what's that? It's a watch.
That's so good.
So that's good stuff.
I laughed so hard.
I just want to talk about Steve Trevor in general because I
Yes.
think he is.
How updated they made him.
I love her. He's just like, I'm above average. Like, and he mentioned it again. Like,
Yes.
he kept saying,
He's
I
like,
am
no,
above average.
Yeah. You know, it's the thing where he is in a traditionally woman's role in terms of a superhero dynamic movie where he's like the one that's getting saved and he's like whatever. But there's still that assertion of male, dynamics once they get into the real world. And she's like, there's a lot of times in the movie, particularly in the second act, where he's like, no, Diane, that's not how that works, or you don't do that, or don't do this thing, and she just does it anyway. He's like, okay, you have to wait outside. And then she's like, do. She just walks in anyway, and one of the things that I thought was really interesting too was when they come out of the store, when they buy her the new clothes, and Edda's there, and and there's like a good solid 45 seconds where he keeps trying to grab the sword from her and she's like not letting him do it. And it's like, and then Edda goes and grabs it and then she pauses for a second and she lets her take it.
I had noticed that, but that makes total
Yeah,
sense.
so it was the thing. She's like, swear that you'll take care of it, and then she that's the only time that she wasn't like dancing that sword around that nobody can touch it is when Edda grabbed it. And I was like,
wonder
that's so subtle and
I
so
wonder
good.
if
Yeah.
if in that moment Edda realizes that, and that's why she tries to take it.
It's very possible. I mean, like, I wish there was more Edda in the movie. Like, she was really good.
She was a great cast. Like
really
when I heard that she was one playing it, I was kind of like, I mean, I guess, but then
That's what's
she
so
was
interesting.
perfect.
Delightful.
And that's what's so interesting about Etta Candy to me is like it's funny because she's such a weird character in the comic to me because she's like, her name is Candy and
Yeah.
she's heavy set because she eats candy. But she's all jazz hands. But she also has always been kind of a fucking cool chick at
Yeah,
the same
definitely.
time. Like she has her little harem of ladies who just like, you know, and so it's always is like, is she supposed to be comic relief because she also is kind of badass? So yeah, they handled it really well in this movie.
And they handled both of those. If you watch like the I'll call it the credits tag because that's what it is, but it was like the extra scene on the Blu-ray. Like she's even a badass in there. Like they make fun of her for being a woman. Like, well, Wonder Woman, like Diana's a woman. Like, yeah, but she's different. She's like awesome, and you're you. And then like in 2 seconds, she kicks the shit out of like 2 guys.
Yeah.
She's like, see,
Yeah.
I'm the boss, and it's fantastic.
Yeah,
like,
is.
and I really like that actress. Like, she was great in that role.
Yeah, she's really good. And so I think Steve, they did a really great job at showing how your love interest in a movie doesn't have to be useless or, you know, feckless in any kind of way. And also kind of, you know, showing you how, and he never really like belittled her or like try to do like, you know, like it was a really good line that they walked. There's a lot of like pitfalls that they could have fallen into. Like if you watch the pilot for the Wonder Woman series,
I heard about how bad that was.
oh, it's deliciously terrible. Like it's really good, but like as a kid, I watched Wonder Woman constantly. Like if it was on TV at all in any kind of, because it used to repeat on like 3 different channels growing up. If it was on at all, I'd stop and watch it. Doesn't matter what, if it's 3 minutes left in the episode or if it's whole thing, I would stop and watch it. And I hadn't watched the pilot in a really long time, so then when it came out on DVD, I bought it and I watched the pilot again, and I was like, oh, Steve's real sexist. And it's kind of played for laughs in it to a degree. Like it's a really interesting, because the tonally it's not what you remember if you saw it as a kid. And it's really kind of tongue-in-cheek and very kind of upfront about, like, Steve thinks she's wonderful, but like there's this whole thing where he's like, I sleep with all the secretaries. Like it's like a whole, like, it's just a really, really fascinating kind of like.
And you're talking about the one that was made like 10 years ago? Or?
Linda Carter?
The Linda Carter one.
Oh.
Yeah. So the Linda Carter, no, I'm sorry. The David E. Kelly thing is an abomination.
You were saying pilot, so that's
So
why I
I'm
kept
sorry,
thinking
the
that.
first episode. It's technically the pilot, but yeah, it's the first episode ever. It's really fascinating because it's like, you know, he's awed by her, and then there's a point where he gets drugged by the Marsha, who's a double agent, and he's like, "Oh, you're so pretty," kind of like, it's just like it's just he's really freaking useless in it. It's really entertaining.
Well, you just go Steve Trevor from the comics, and he's anywhere from very involved good guy to a complete useless lump on a log, and and then they just kill him all the fucking time. Like Steve Trevor meeting Wonder Woman was the worst thing that ever happened to Steve Trevor.
He was gonna die anyways.
I mean, that's true, but
you're fighting during a war. Your days are fairly numbered.
and he's always been a
probably.
bit of a dullard, but he's not really in this movie. But
Yes.
I kind of like dumb Steve Trevor.
Yeah,
But I do appreciate in this movie, Steve needed to be great because
No,
it
yeah,
can't-
totally, yeah.
It can't be just the thing that's always bugged me about Steve Trevor. It's like it's the only dude she's ever met, and she falls in love with him, of course.
Yeah.
But in this movie, it made it so that she had a basis for comparison, but also like he legitimately is awesome. She
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
happened to meet
Absolutely.
an awesome dude.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel, and that love scene between them is really nicely done.
Yeah.
No words, and it was very obviously consensual, and it was just it wasn't played for boobs or for, you know, anything that made you feel titillated. It was more just like love.
Well, and the big difference between when movies flip this and it's the superhero dude falls in love with the girl, she dies, and then just like kind of, even though he's like, I'm kind of sad, and then gets over her and it's like she never existed. This,
my girlfriend's in a refrigerator.
yeah, it's like whatever with that. But then with this, they actually spent some time on it, and I felt just as sad as she did when he was gone.
Yeah.
there was a void that Steve Trevor left, and you don't get that out of the side characters any other time necessarily. And it was so cool. I loved them.
Yes.
them.
Yeah, I loved everybody. Like, and you know, Charlie with the PTSD, like that was so good.
Oh, I love that never got resolved.
No,
like he
because
never
it's-
actually shot anyone.
Nope.
Like that was great.
And she was like, well, who'll sing for us? And he's like, and that's literally what he did. Like he scouted some stuff and he like sang for them, and she kind of healed his heart a little. Like
That moment,
That's what she
that
does.
moment was so that made that moment just. It healed my cold heart. Like
Yeah.
you just watch it because it's like
Who played it? Was it Ewan Bremer?
Yeah.
yeah.
I always think of him as Spud.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah,
Spud.
always
yeah.
Spud.
This was the time when I realized it was Spud. Like I was like, oh, finally, okay, having seen
And
both
then
those movies now.
immediately you think of him flinging poop across the room.
Oh, yeah.
Or throwing up in a bag tied to his face.
But just that he could have so easily been the punchline, and instead her reaction to him of just delight and love
Yeah.
was just, I don't know, it was really
It was-
good.
yeah.
It was good for me.
And there's a small there are some valid concerns about sort of the lack of diversity in terms of speaking roles. I understand them, but I also was very satisfied with what we got based on what was having to happen in this movie. I think that Patty Jenkins did a really good job at making sure, like when they're in the train station walking through and you just see soldiers from all different kinds of country, including brown soldiers, just gobs and gobs of brown soldiers. It's like,
Like
yes,
the
because that's what
turbans, the
happened.
guys in turbans were, they're, even though they were a big part of World War I and II, they never
You
get
see
shown
them.
in any of the movies.
And having a Native American characters admit, like, just say straight up, white people.
Yeah.
It's like fucked me up.
Yeah. It's like, how do you guys know each other? Oh, his people killed most of my people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, for people who don't know, explain who that character is, because that was actually a big deal that a lot of people just kind of breezed over.
Like, even on first viewing, I got the feeling like this guy's got more to him than the other three do, but I didn't understand either. I didn't know his character before.
Yeah. So Chief, there's a part where when they meet, they speak to each other. He speaks to her in his language, and they have an exchange. And so about 2-3 weeks after the movie came out, these articles started popping up about what they actually said. So basically, he's introducing himself to her as a Native American god, and he's a kind of like a trickster god, and I'm forgetting his name right now. But I thought that was like. I was really like super into that when I found out. I was like, this movie's so much better than I thought it was. Like it's even better. And so then when you think about the conversation that they then have about, well, what are you doing here? Is like, well, he killed all my people. So there's like, he is an untethered god at this point because most of the people that would worship him are gone. So I just was like, whoa.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That means we might see him again.
Yes, very likely,
I'm
which would be
sure
so
we will.
dope.
Yeah.
Also, I'm pretty sure there's probably going to be like a Steve Trevor the Third somewhere because
Who
he's
looks
Or they'll
exactly
just-
like Chris Pine.
yes.
Or they'll just bring him back
like when
because
they
that
do
happens to him all the
Or they could just
time.
bring him back because I
Yeah.
know it's kind of like a kind of thing, but like he's so good in that part. To see him do a different version of him would be actually interesting, and I'd be okay with it because he's so good in that
Yeah.
part.
Chris Pine is totally an underappreciated
he really
pretty
is.
boy.
He is my second favorite
He's
Chris.
yeah. He's
Piney
he's a
Fresh.
fantastic actor that everyone's just like, just look at his blue eyes, and you're like, no, he's got more to him. Than
Yeah.
He does have some nice blue eyes,
He
though.
does. He also has a really great voice.
He does.
Yeah.
Like in Star Trek when he goes, either they're going down, or we're going down,
Well, even
or they
in-
are.
Into
I'm
the
like,
Woods.
say it again.
Yeah.
Even Into the Woods. when they got that-
Agony.
Yeah.
Yes.
God.
Yes.
It's an amazing.
He's got such a
amazing duet.
range.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will really fast bring up one of the things that I find so like funny and annoying in this film with the costumes. All right, so she straight up probably punches out and strips that poor woman after getting out of the carriage.
Sure.
She might have left her blue cloak that she was wearing, but she's shivering somewhere in that woods. And then, so she's wearing the blue dress, which is stunning on her.
Yes.
And then she leaves, starts running after the dude, flings it off, and is apparently wearing her Wonder Woman
By
bodice
the way,
underneath
that dress is 3 fucking pieces because
Yeah.
I did it for Comic-Con and trying to figure it out was just ridiculous because there's a dress and then there's another dress on top of that and there's like a drape piece on top of that. So yeah, and then the fact that she's on a horse and just goes wee is just funny
I
to
mean,
me.
she's Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
She can do it.
Quick
And
changes
when
are
she-
her thing.
Yeah.
When she does that, though, she also ends up with a sling for
Yeah.
on her over her shoulder. I'm like, you didn't have that on you
It
5
was,
seconds ago.
it was tucked in with the sword.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, those of us who play video games, we're just like, okay, cool.
Okay, sure, yeah.
That
Like,
works.
It's in her bag of holding.
I know.
That
It's
tracks.
just so
Yeah,
weird.
that's-
Just
yeah.
the idea of Wonder Woman stripping of another woman and leaving her in the
Well,
forest.
in Diana's defense, that lady was an asshole.
She
Yep.
was a Nazi lady.
She was a not. Yeah, she deserves to be cold and shivering. In the
And I
woods.
don't care
And she
how
was-
much you preach, like, understanding. No, Nazis deserve to have
To
their
be
clothes
punched.
taken away from them.
Technically,
Yeah,
World War
to
One,
be
not
punched.
Nazis.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Well,
They're not-
then
they're not
pre-Nazis.
Nazis. They were they were gonna be
She was
Nazis.
pre-Nazis.
Yeah, she would have been on the side of the Nazis
Yes.
eventually.
She
sure.
100%. I mean, how shitty she was, and like,
Yeah.
oh, hurry up! I'm so cold.
This was Wonder Woman delving into pre-crime.
Yeah.
Basically,
Perfect.
Basically,
One thing about the costumes I want to bring up and see what other people, before John breaks his camera, see what other people think about it. Did anybody else notice this? I could be barking up the wrong tree. It's very possible, but I'm wearing the ring right now. Huge Green Lantern fan. Like Green Lantern for me is like Wonder Woman for you. Like it is like my end all be all comics. I will read it over
Hal or
anything.
Kyle.
I like him as a
Both.
core.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. I'm
And,
just-
and
he likes it when they work together.
Yes,
I
I
love
do
it
too.
when they
I
work
just care.
together.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just just check.
Uh,
Just checking.
Yeah. That said, so Wonder Woman, you can see on your shirt, she always has a headpiece that has a star on it. That is like the Wonder Woman thing. The star in this movie looks like the star sapphire. Like the star sapphire ring, which is the ring of love. And I thought that was very interesting. I don't know if it was intentional. I'm sure it was.
Well, she was a star sapphire.
I know,
for a brief
but
time in the comics as well.
So I'm wondering if that was something they would ever think about bringing in, because that symbol, I mean, it's a little bit off, but it is so close.
Well, just go to the whole chief thing. If that's coded into the movie and that intentional, something like a headband is not going to be ignored either.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
I think that it is likely that was one of the inspiration points pulled.
Yeah.
I mean, they have committee meetings to discuss.
Yeah.
shit.
and I
Yeah,
think-
totally. That's why I'm like, I don't
I
think
am
they would have
not a
landed on
committee.
it.
Yeah. And the Green Lantern Corps is going to be the movie. Is going to be the Corps movie.
Yeah.
And if you look at all the Green Lantern stories, one of the key sagas is the Spectrum War
Yeah.
stuff. So I would be shocked if that was not a thing that they were planning.
Yeah. And,
And-
it's also Jeff Johns
And Jeff
loves
Johns. I
the
mean,
fucking...
he wrote this. He wrote
Yeah.
the thing. I mean,
Yeah.
like, so I would, because there's a lot of things in there that are very kind of subtle. Like I was yesterday, I was doing some kind of like research into stuff, and I saw this one video that was talking about sort of Easter eggs and that the lack thereof. I was like, no, it's not that they weren't there. They're just references that most people wouldn't catch, like the alleyway thing where she deflects a bullet in front of Chris. In front of Steve is a straight up Donner Superman thing.
Oh,
That
yeah.
is 100% very. There's a lot of those tonal things to the Donner Superman that I don't think people quite understood, and also there's a lot of like very subtle, straight up comic pieces that are visually represented
Yeah.
in there, like the whole red and gold thing when she's in that rage in the fight. Looks straight up like an Adam Hughes cover, and in various motion. There's a part of it where I'm like, yeah, that could be that cover right there. So I think it's really I think that there was a lot of deep thought there. So I would be, and I'm guessing that the seventh member in the Justice League movie is going to be one of the Green Lanterns.
I think you're right.
And it's probably going to be Armie Hammer playing him.
I'm so into that.
I'm so into Armie
I
Hammer.
was
being in
very
everything.
disappointed when Chris Pine was cast as Steve Trevor, although he's great for Steve Trevor, because I really want him from Hal Jordan, because I thought he'd be a very good Hal Jordan.
And I wanted Tyler Hoechlin to be Nightwing, even though I love him as Superman and Supergirl. I just had to throw that in there.
He's really good as Superman.
He's super cute.
Yeah.
So, and hashtag that ass.
DC
Talk
Comics
about
gives us a
Buns of
lot
steel.
male,
Yeah.
male,
Asses that don't
hotness.
get enough love from the CW. Zoom's ass when he was in his costume. Ugh. I had to,
Everybody loves those
I
sweet,
even-
sweet sculpted hams.
I even freeze framed our TV once and took a photo of his butt. I was just like, I need to keep this.
Save that for later.
why is this not an article on our site?
Thoughts?
CW ass.
Yes. But yeah, the other thought of the seventh member in the Justice League movie was Captain Marvel, now Shazam, which bothers me a lot because that's his magic phrase, and if he keeps introducing himself like that, he'll just change. But yeah, so that's a possibility because Dwayne Johnson's been on the deck for so long, but
But he's still... they're not going to bring Black Adam into it.
no, they're not. But
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it'd be interesting if they had. Because they haven't talked about who's playing Shazam. I think they're just now casting him, but you could have Billy Batson running around out there, like
Yeah,
the
I
movie
mean,
very clearly.
because Shazam starts shooting what, February, January?
I don't even know. It's
It's soon.
everything is so weird because I think The Flash was technically supposed to start shooting
and then they
next,
lost the director
but they
again.
lost the director again, and now they're rejiggering it to be Flashpoint, which I have a lot of conflicted feelings about.
So
With
do we.
Wonder Woman, because they just cut Wonder Woman into it, because now they put her in everything because she's the thing that sells.
Which is I'm like
that's
listen,
awesome.
If
Yeah.
you want to take Wonder Woman and give her the Batman treatment that you've been like overselling for years, give me that. I
Yeah,
want
yeah.
that.
I'm so into
Just
it,
don't
yeah.
mess her up with Flashpoint.
I'd also like to hope we get other women. 'cause she's
yeah,
not the only
she's not the only
one.
one. Can I get
DC's
me
got
some
others.
sweet Black Canary and some?
That's
well,
actually
we-
something I loved when we were watching How Should It End or How It Should Have Ended.
Yeah.
When they did their superhero cafe,
Yeah.
Supergirl and Batgirl were just sitting and be like, you guys want us to come along? And
they're like,
Batman's like,
The Just Us League.
no. I mean, it was just a great way to bring that into
Yeah.
Yeah.
attention and be like, hello.
I mean, and they're.
But I mean, we are getting a Batgirl movie. Well, supposedly. Who
Hopefully.
knows after that?
Supposedly.
Joss Whedon.
it's still gonna
Sherlock
happen. He just might not write it anymore or something, or they
We'll
might bring
we'll
a second
find
movie,
out.
right?
Yeah.
The movie will still happen. It's just
Yeah, we'll still get a Batgirl movie. I would love to get a Batwoman movie.
yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I'd love to get Huntress in there.
Yeah,
I
Huntress would be
enjoy
great.
her.
Birds of Prey.
Yeah.
Zatanna would be awesome.
Oh, I love
Zatanna would be super
Zatanna.
good.
Batwoman.
DC has so many like just fucking stellar female
Not
characters.
Power Girl.
Well, no. I mean, if they do Kara, they're going to do Supergirl. They're not going to do Power Girl.
No.
Or they might do her as
You
like a definite, like if they do a Crisis
just
movie,
might
which
need
I
to
think they'll
change
do at
her
some
outfit.
point.
Make her flat chested.
You can,
hilarious.
okay, you can. I can think of like 17 ways where you can make Power Girl work. That's the thing that we can
Power
do.
Girl's a good character. It's just her boobs.
It's understandable because they
boring.
they don't really do great stuff with her in comics for the most part. There are
Her
stretches.
crossover with Harley was pretty fun.
Yeah, and then there's the whole JLI era, and like so it's just they happen in chunks. You know what I mean? And if you start reading her comic at like the wrong time, it's not going to be great for you. But
And she was the major player in Crisis on Infinite Earths, and
Yes.
she was great in that. Like
Yeah.
she can be a great character.
she can. It's just. It's hard sometimes, and also an unsung character. Like if we're talking about magic people, I really like Tracy 13, who is she's the daughter of Dr. 13, who is actually supposed to be like a magic debunker, but she's on the Homo Magi, which is what they call the inherent magic users of the DC universe. And she has city-based magic, so she can like teleport or whatever, but she can also like tap into stuff of the city. She's cool.
Also, if they could somehow get the guy that played Constantine in the TV show and start shoving him in places.
Also, kind of
Because
get like
that was
legit
so
stuff.
underappreciated. That entire show was underappreciated.
Yeah,
While we're
was
at it,
good.
can we
I
get
think-
Martian Manhunter?
I think that's
Martian Manhunter. God, I love
Played
that
everything.
actor.
Can we get
More.
Sterling K. Brown to play Martian Manhunter?
I think that stands as a testament to this movie that it has led us down these rabbit holes for a very long time and has excited us.
Yeah.
And I don't think a movie in the DC thing has excited me as much as Wonder Woman has.
No, I've
and
been
has made me
excited.
as interested in seeing the other aspects and other avenues and other characters play in because there was the right amount of love in this movie for
Yeah.
this material.
And as a longtime DC fan, and growing up on, Batman 66, the daughter of Superman, and Wonder Woman, that trinity of those things, and being really into them as kids, and trying to bring my niece up. It was a delayed reaction. My niece is like a full-on nerd now, but it's kind of like a delayed thing
Well
because
done.
when she was a kid, it was kind of like that weird transitional phase, and like. Some of the stuff that was coming out was a little too old for her at the time, like the Harry Potter movies. It was too scary for her at the time because she was really young. So now she's like 20 and doing all this stuff. And so when Man of Steel came out, I was like, okay, we're all going to go together. And part of the reason why that movie hurt my feelings so much was because I was really excited to have my niece see a Superman movie. And it was not what it should have been. And so I took her. We all went to the Wonder Woman movie, and that was what I was wanting. Like you come out with that like hope and that like you want to like go and like hug a person and then like also work out with people and do all kinds of stuff. And like you just want to like tackle all kinds of stuff and like you're super excited and you talk about all these things and that's what I want for her. And so the fact that it was a Wonder Woman movie that I was able to do that with, there's feels about it.
Yeah.
Good feels.
I feel we should move into quotes.
Okay.
Quotes.
I'm just gonna say mine really fast,
Go for
which
it.
was part of the culture shock with Wonder Woman when they're getting out of the like committee war room thing, and she's just yelling at him, be like, "Why would you support that?" And then he's just like making her realize what he was actually doing, and she just looks at him and be like, "You were lying?"
Yeah.
And then his reply is, "Yes, I'm a spy. That's what I do." Like total like.
I loved her face in that.
Her
Yeah,
purity.
you were-
She just was like slowly realizing like what you can't. Sometimes it's okay to lie.
Yeah.
The incredulousness of all that. I have two actually.
Go for it.
So it's the who would I be if I stayed? I feel like I talk a lot about the Trinity in various ways in Twitter and periods when I have random thoughts about it. And if you like distill everybody into like kind of little log lines, hers is kind of like an exchange student in a certain way, but like leaving the island to go out and do good. So like that who would I be if I stayed? It's like you know making the choice to let bad things happen and not intervene really like pinpoints the character for me. And also the whatever it is I can do it, let me do it. When Steve's trying to be like, no, I gotta go blow up this thing, and she's like I don't know what you're saying, but like, you know, just let me do it, I can do it, like whatever it is. And I feel also like that really hits for me too, because especially, you know, as a woman who doesn't always who's sometimes underestimated into things that I can do. I'm just like, just let me do it. It's fine. Like, I don't want to, you know, and also from that time period of women don't get to do as much stuff as they do because they are thought to be less than and thought to be, well, even now, thought that it can't be done. She's just like really dismissive of whatever he's trying to say. She's like, it's fine. Yeah. I can do it. Let me do it. It's fine. I can do it. I don't understand what you're saying, but I know I can do it. So it's that kind of confidence and all that kind of stuff that I just like. I like it a lot. I like this
Well,
movie a
women
lot.
are can do when they're raised with the confidence.
Yes.
And they're told they can do it. I liked all the way this movie knew it had a heavily. It allowed itself to make jokes that women would particularly laugh at, you know, and like on the boat when they're talking about the books of sexual pleasure or whatever, and she's like, "Yeah, men are unnecessary for pleasure." That was great. But my favorite line is when they're doing the whole watch penis thing, and they're in the little hot tub or whatever, and she's just like, "What is that?" And he's like, "My penis." Oh, you mean the watch? And then later on when he describes what a watch is, and she's like, "You let that little thing tell you what to do?" And he's just like, yeah. But
also the watch is my penis.
Yeah, the watch is my penis.
It's an allegory.
Mine's a little bit more silly, but I really enjoy it. It's when Chris Pine lands at the beach and all the Germans are behind him, and he turns around and sees all the Amazons with bows and arrows and goes, "They have guns, right?"
So I can't decide between these two, so I'm going to just go for it. The silly one is when they're walking down the streets of London and she sees a baby for the first time. She's like, "Oh, a baby!" And then Steve Trevor's line, "It's not made of clay." I missed it the first time I watched the movie, and then when he said it this time, I was like, I bust out laughing. I had to apologize for waking people up, but then the other one, it's maybe a little cheesy, but it ties into the watch when he tells Diana at the end, "I wish we had more time," and hands her the watch. It was just like, oh, hit me in the feels. Like, I had to sit back and was like, damn. Like, it's a kind of a cheesy line, but they pulled it off so well, and it really kind of tied into just the watch joke, and then like just how much I love their love story.
I love this movie a lot.
I'm trying to think of a good
Oh,
review
God.
system for it.
It's super great.
The review system for this one's a little tough.
What about movies that made you feel empowered as a child?
Oh,
Oh, Jesus.
oh
Okay.
God, that's a
I got mine right away. Hook.
bangarang.
Loved Hook. And it's a great example for me in a movie about kids and growing up and stuff and being able to see yourself in a different gender, essentially. Because there was a ton of characters that I related to in that movie. And there was a part of me that wanted to be Rufio for a little while, even though he dies. And like, I adored Hook. And it just, for me, it like showed a lot of possibilities, and you do have to grow up. It's not going to necessarily be bad. Don't leave everything away, but it's also good to still play. Like, oh my God. When I watch that movie still, when he says, "You're playing with us, Peter," I still cry. It's amazing. That
I'm going to go with Forrest Gump. And I'm going to say that because if you're saying movies that made you feel empowered as a child, that movie did two things for me. One, I was a total fucking dork as a kid, and I didn't have a ton of friends. And seeing like Forrest, who kind of was the same thing, where he only had really one friend, but he just didn't give a shit and just ran for life. Like, he was just for life and super positive all the time. That helped me a lot. And it made me go...
And it's why you're super positive all the time.
that it also made me go, oh, movies are what I want to do with my life. So that also left me on like my life goal was Forrest Gump. So that's mine.
For me, it's Return of the King, and I'll explain why. It is the scene.
Wait, that you weren't a child when that
You
came
were
out.
not a child.
No,
When you were
childhood?
a child.
Yeah, when you were a kid.
Oh, then never mind. I'm just talking about just movies that made me feel empowered.
No, when you were a child.
When you were a child.
Dirty Dancing?
No.
Really?
Because nobody puts baby in a corner. I mean, oh yeah, no, I like that.
How young were you when you saw that movie?
I was pretty young. Why?
This is because there's a lot of not child things in there.
Well, if you get,
Oh,
if you
no,
get
I
that
was like-
TV edit, it's not that bad.
I was definitely
Airplane version.
pretty young. I was
It's 15 minutes.
Yeah. Well, also, you just don't pay attention to that stuff when you're a
Yeah,
kid. Like,
I
you
don't
don't,
know.
you're just like,
Oh,
I thought you were like
thing.
being like, "How old are you, Emily? You're really fucking old." Anyway,
offended.
yeah. So, I like that. Like, she's like, "I can't do the move. I can't do the move. I can't do the move. I can do the move." You know, and so I was like, "You can do it. You just have to keep practicing." But also, like her, I think subtly, I did not realize this at the time, but like my parents were shitty, and I think her refusal to like kowtow to what everybody wanted her to do and be, and like even standing up to her parents when the time was necessary, I think that was pretty inspiring too. It took me a lot of years to like let that sink in and actually do it myself, but I do feel like that movie was the start of allowing me to see that you have a choice. You don't have to do what everybody tells you to do, and follow your bliss.
I watched a lot of TV growing up, like a lot. So there's a lot of things that I watched varyingly, but made me think immediately of The Journey of Natty Gann, because it's this girl who goes off on her own to go find her dad and going to a logging company because she was staying at some like crappy place. But she goes out on an adventure by herself. She gets a wolf companion. She meets young John Cusack.
Actually, it took me a second to remember that movie.
Yeah.
We have that on Laserdisc.
Yeah,
What was the title?
Journey of Natty Gann.
Natty.
Yeah. This is The Journey of Natty Gann, right? I always call it Natty Gann, so now I'm like, it's The Journey of, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so like it was, I think, the first live action movie I saw that that kids adventure stuff that was centered on a girl and not just having a girl as part of the group, you know? And the fact that she was like, no, I'm going to go find my dad, like just like 100% just went out, braved a lot of stuff. That's how I developed my crush on John Cusack. And also have a long time obsession with animal companions. So
Nice.
Which also ties into the War Room things because she can talk to animals.
This one that kind of inspired me, and it took me a while to figure out why it inspired me, was Cool Runnings. And what I think was inspiring about that was just how they didn't win, but at the end they finished the race. They did what they knew they had to do. They just went with it and finished and they acted. And I mean, just looking back on that just even watching it again many times, I was like, that really resonates with me. And I felt that same way. Like there's a same kind of sense of just like you do and you are, the better for doing and in action. And I don't know, a genuineness.
It's okay to fail.
Yeah, it's okay to fail, but like it was an earnest movie too. Mm-hmm. And then rewatching, I was like, oh wait, yeah, this was enjoyable. But yeah, that's the one I'm going with. It has some similar feelings for me. But yeah, glad I fell on it. Like,
you did it.
Well, no, I worried. I was like, hold on.
Good choice, Chewie.
Have I been dead
my
inside
initial
for all my life?
I wouldn't doubt it.
By the way, I have Hook on VHS,
Nice.
DVD, and Laserdisc, and I have a gun from Hook that I found at the first
Oh,
I was very excited.
I was gonna
I
say,
just
and
I have a gun. Just FYI, in case anyone was wondering.
It's the Hook's gun from the movie. I love the movie Hook.
Hook is a good
Good.
movie.
I enjoyed it.
It's
I
a
really
good
like it.
movie. It's a good movie.
So coming up, because this is the end of Wonder Woman, we are starting our October horror month. Yeah.
Tune in next time, folks, when we talk about the movie again, even though we're not supposed to.
We're actually talking about the movie.
So the first episode is a horror battle, and we're going with romantic horror movies. And it will be up to the people defending the movie to say why they are romantic horror movies. I threw that out there because our guest, which I'm still not sure exactly which one will be, it's part of a couple. I don't know if we're getting the boyfriend or the girlfriend, but I told them they could pick Leprechaun in the Hood if they wanted to, as long as they could defend that it was a romantic movie. So it's going to be up to us to defend them.
The Leprechaun does love his gold.
He does. There's love in there.
Oh, God.
And he loves Jennifer Aniston
Those
for one
movies
movie.
are awful.
Yeah, there's
All of
something
them.
else.
Leprechaun.
And then after that, we're doing guest choice throughout the rest of the month, where the guest coming on is picking the movie that we're reviewing.
Yeah.
So far, we have two that are going to be very different, but one of them is one of my all-time favorite movies, like in the top 10, one of the greatest movies ever made, and I'm very excited
And
to talk
Emily,
about it.
if you need to come over while watching some of these horror films,
I might need to.
you need me to hold your hand, I will.
I'm just scared. Horror movies are scary.
I love
Neither one of the ones picked so far are
I
actual
love
scary
horror
movies.
movies as long as they're not torture porn.
Yeah, I
so-
don't do gore. I'm okay with jump scares. I'm not okay with like gore.
Oh, the first one might be a little gory.
But
will-
I will,
I mean, like,
I
I'm
will
okay with
hold your
zombie movies.
hand, and I will hold you. I'll put a
Chewie,
blanket
help me,
around
I
you.
feel scared.
Like you're in a safe place.
Yeah, it's weird because I feel like the supernatural one, like the vampire, werewolf, whatever, like I can watch those even if they're like, oh, there's guts spraying all over the place, because it's a lore thing that's interesting to me versus like Hostel. You know,
Well,
like
that's like I was telling Brian about it the other time. There was a long time where I didn't like horror films, and then I realized, oh, it's just because because at that point, torture porn was popular.
yeah, it's the worst.
And before that, slasher films were popular. And torture porn and slasher films are all about brutalizing women.
Yeah.
And when those aren't popular, when like right now ghost stories are popular, I love horror movies. When it's not about dismembering a lady, I love horror movies.
When I was at Halloween Horror
Okay, we need to end this.
Bye!